Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session in our October series. I am Sneha Yadamari, Head of Events at Hacking HR, and I am thrilled to be your host for the next hour today. I hope you all had a restful and refreshing week to recharge. I know Monday blues and most of the Mondays can sometimes feel like a wind whirl, but I'm so excited to kick off today's session because this is one of the most important and energizing topic, the strategic AI blueprint, exploring tools and trends for HR leaders. So we're going to dive into how AI can be a game changer for HR, and I can't wait to hear the insights from our incredible panels. And I would also like to give a big shout out to our Transparent, our partner for today's conversation. And before we jump in, I'd love to hear from all of you. How's your feeling today, and how did you have your weekend? And drop a quick note in the chat. Let us know where you're jumping in, and what excites you about today's topic and what aligns you with it. And please keep your questions, thoughts, and comments coming throughout the session. We truly count on each perspective you bring to our panel. And I would like to bring on our amazing panelists onto the stage today. And let's start with a quick round of introductions. So, who would like to go first? So, I see Philia on the stage first. So, yeah, Philia would like to go first.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Philia Swam. I'm Senior Director of Total Rewards at Transparent. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about AI and how those of us in HR really need to start thinking about it if we're not already, and how we can implement it into our HR strategy.
And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm dialing in from London, UK, so on the other side of the planet. My name is Chipra Narhira. I am the global head of people transformation programs and analytics for an organization just over 30,000 people. I lead HR transformation programs that includes almost like technology implementations and future vision for how we're going to use AI in HR, as well as a lot of other initiatives, just making sure our people function is top notch and best class and what we're delivering for the organization. Been passionate about AI and advanced technologies for a few years now. So with all of the boom that we've been seeing in the market on AI, really keen to understand how do we position HR leaders almost like in a driving force for picking up some of these AI blueprints, understanding what they mean for their organizations and the roadmap and how they can bring it to life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for these wonderful introductions. And now we've gotten to know a bit better. Let's jump into some questions that really aligns with your expertise with today's discussion. So, Philia, I would like to go with you. So, as a leader deeply involved in HR strategy, how do you believe HR professionals can ensure their AI strategies not only align with broader organizational goals, but they also deliver measurable outcomes?
Sure. So, I think the first thing we need to ask is, what are we trying to solve? So partnering with our business partners, not only within HR, but throughout the organization. What is our goal? What's our strategy? What's our mission? And then fully understand what that strategy is, where we're really trying to direct our goals for the future, and ensure that the AI initiatives align with that business strategy. We need to do the legwork. We need to, roll up our sleeves and figure out how we're going to make this a success for not only, whether it's for our own employees, for our customers, for the communities that we're serving. Second, collaboration. I think, we really need to, as HR professionals, collaborate with all of our internal and external stakeholders to really figure out how are we going to work together to create that strategy. How are we going to support the strategy, clearly define what is meant to be solved, and then select the tools that directly support those goals and continually monitor them. Because as you know, we're always pivoting to change direction if something's not working exactly how we'd like it to work. So it's really important for us to see what the data is showing us to be able to move forward or change course. And data really is the critical component to this. I think AI makes the biggest impact once we get the data and we can really start thinking about what next. Or, like I just said a few seconds ago, do we need to change course? But really using that data to set the direction and the strategy. And then finally, communication. People need to know how impactful AI is because it really is changing how we as individuals are getting information, whether it's at work, whether it's, we're shopping online, we're using tools and technology to help us improve our well-being. Communication is key. So we need to talk internally about the efficiency. Are we getting what we set out to achieve? Are we getting the simplification that we really set out to achieve in the implementation of the AI? And then what's working well and what's not? Or if it's not working well, then what do we do to very quickly change course and move forward?
And I'm going to jump on that a little bit. And I think when we were talking about measurable results, the first thing that will come into your head if you're almost like on the almost like the fear of AI adoption is you're going to think of how many roles are being displaced and how much saving is the organization generating based on introducing AI. And that's like a clear cut measurable result. If you're looking at this from the lens of an HR leader, which your responsibility is how do you make sure that the organization becomes this amazing environment where people love to come and work and they find all of the tools to enable them to deliver the best of themselves, you start to think of like efficiencies. So where are you driving process efficiencies and how are you measuring the process efficiencies? Is it taking it faster? Is work being done faster, better, smoother than before? You're looking at what Philia mentioned earlier of almost like hyper personalization of experiences. With are we reaching out everyone in the organization, and are we able to customize their experiences to be able to deliver on what they want and what they need? So for an organization that, I don't know, 300,000 customizing experiences is going to be very difficult if you're not using something that allows you to scale that much some of those experiences. So almost like that second point. Third point that I think Phila mentioned quite clearly is the data, and are you making the most out of your data and insights? Is AI able to like shrink the time that you're using into understanding data from a few days that will take you to like navigate complex reports into a few minutes? And that's going to be amazing, especially for business leaders, not just for HR leaders. The fourth one would have been self-service and self-resolution. So can AI support us into actually things that I should be able to do myself, I'm unable to do myself? So I don't want to reach out to HR teams to find my payslip. I would ideally want in an organization to be able to do that myself. Same with holiday entitlements, same with understanding bank holidays and all of these things to feel self-sufficient in how we're supporting. And last but not least, as an HR leader, we have a responsibility for our people in our organization. So are we moving the dial on how we're upskilling and developing these people to understand what the future of work would look like? Is AI part of that journey? So how is AI amplifying the learning journey that you put the organization on? So almost like 5 topics to start thinking about.
I love those perspectives. Yes, thank you so much, both. And welcome, Oluda. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we will let you do a quick introduction before we could dive into the topics.
Okay, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Apologies for coming in late.
Oluda, I
Can
believe that
can you
you
hear
are
me?
free.
I'm having maybe I'll just put off my camera to manage bandwidth a little bit.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but you're freezing a bit.
Oh,
Okay, so I have an interesting question for Chiprin before we get Aluda reconnected again. So let's give him some time to disconnect and connect back. With your extensive experience in HR tech and innovation, could you share with us which AI tools you have found to be the most impactful in driving efficiency and transformation within HR departments?
Um, I'm trying to stay away from naming some of the tools because this is not sponsored by any of them
Yes.
vendors. But there's if you look at across the ecosystem of AI, you find different technologies being either built on AI, so anything that is relatively new at the moment, it is starting to be built directly on AI models, and that's quite useful for us to understand almost like the differentiation. So I think Josh Burson does some great work on reporting on the different type of technologies that work in that space. So I think one that comes to mind would potentially be like Eightfold AI. It's in the name. It's been built on AI and you leverages almost like skills, dynamic skills taxonomies to understand where capabilities and skills lie within the organization, where you should bring them from the market, how you drive the organization based on skills rather than roles and capabilities. If you look at already existing technologies that are in your ecosystem, so if you think like the big three HRIS vendors, so that would be Oracle, Workday, or SuccessFactors, they are building a lot of AI capability in. So the architecture is not AI, but they're building a lot of capability in. And that could be anything from like supporting people on how they set up smart goals in the system, or embedding chatbot functionality in there to support with answers, or guiding people through how to navigate through the platform, or simplifying some of those workflows that they already exist in the platform. So they are almost like adding on AI functionality. And then the third one is the one where AI becomes almost like a layer across the whole technologies. And if you look at technologies like that are, I don't know, Microsoft with Copilot, so embedding Copilot into a lot of their tools and then giving it multiple ways of functionality and support. Or if you look at ServiceNow, sort of everything in ServiceNow is starting to have AI being embedded into it. So from, again, automation of workflows to chatbot functionality to dynamic text generation to skills, even newer, or recommending learning. So it's starting to build all of these different ecosystems and how we're supporting. I did mention, I'm not going to mention vendors, but I think these are almost like known in the market and being quite big around being used in HR. And this is how they are absorbing some of the new AI functionality. So whether from the foundations in the architecture or as an add-on to their functionality.
I want to piggyback onto that because I think we're dovetailing into similar areas. I think, benefits enrollment, for example, and the administration of that is one of the key areas where we can really make a huge impact with AI. Think about, I've been leading benefits teams for probably longer than I care to admit, but when we think about when back in the day, we were writing things on paper and in spreadsheets to help employees figure out which medical plan makes the most sense, right? And now today, with Ben Admin, with all of the tools that exist in those platforms, employees are actually able to go in and use the AI functionality to help the AI tech recommend, based on utilization and out-of-pocket spending, what makes sense for them. We use that in our own, and in fact, launching it in our own benefits enrollment platform just this week when open enrollment kicks off. So really excited to see how that helps our employees make perhaps different decisions than they've made in the past, because it's all writing it in an Excel spreadsheet and kind of figuring out from there. I think secondly, and I can talk about this because I work at Transcarent, but one of the great tools that we are launching for our own employees, and actually have launched it, is our Just Ask Transcarent AI technology. So it's through our care assistant on the app. And we're actually taking exactly what Cyprian was saying about how do you make the employee give answers to employees quickly without them having to pick up a phone and call their HR department or their insurance carrier. So it's basic questions like, Where am I in my deductible? How do I enroll in my benefits? How do I add a dependent? What is a copay? Like, this is, it's basic questions that allows the individual to own when they ask it and to get an immediate answer. We also have the capability in Just Ask Transparent to, let's say I hurt my shoulder and I want to get care, but I don't know what to do. And it's 9:30 at night. You can ask Care Assistant and you're going to get a perhaps one answer that says, well, you can start with our virtual PT, or maybe it's more severe and you need a virtual orthopedic consult. It gets the member into that area where they have options and choices to act on immediately versus having to wait till the next day to call and get those answers from whether it's their HR department, their manager, or their healthcare provider. So how do we put the basic information into the hands of our employees? I mean, think about it. We've been talking into our phone for how many years, asking questions and getting directions on, where to go. We should be offering those efficiencies to our employees to make it easier for them. So I think that's really important. And then I think also from a wellness perspective, it also gives us the opportunity to tailor programs because based on the data that we're seeing, how do we tailor programs and personalize them for each individual that's using them? I wear a ring, and every day now my new AI coach is asking me, based on my stats, what can we do to improve your sleep? How can we help you manage stress better during the day? Because we're seeing that you're peaking, all day long. It's open enrollment season, so not unusual. But I think those are the types of things that when we put them into the hands of the users, it really does improve their experience and hopefully the quality of whether it's care or, questions and answers that they're getting back.
Awesome. And I see that we have Alura again. So, did you have
Yeah.
some?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It appears to just be a hell of a day when it comes to internet connection and all. But it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dari. You can just call me Dari, Dare. I work out of Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the group HR director of a company called ARM. It's the largest non-bank financial services provider in Nigeria, ranging from, a number of entities within the financial services sector, from asset management to investment banking to pensions to private equity, a number of entities within the financial services space. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I know I've missed out a lot already. Just listening to the conversations from Phila and Cyprian, it's clear that, the conversations have been pretty advanced. But if I could just latch on to what Frida was saying, and for me, the thing that has been most instructive is how it appears that the evolution of technology and AI in itself is making life a lot simpler. It's making things a lot easier. Of course, recognizing, the evolution of time and the huge amount of work that has taken us to get here. But literally being able to, like Phila was saying, you've been talking to your phones and you've been asking questions for a long time. And it's individuals that you've been asking these questions from. But having, someone on the other end that remembers every single thing that you've asked them and they're able to analyze and interact them in such a way that it adds a lot more value. I don't know how many of us tried to remember conversation we had a month ago or 6 months ago, and you literally struggle. But now recognizing that every single thing, you put out there is available. There was a trend that went a bit viral in this part of the world where, individuals in the workplace were asking ChatGPT to roast me based on my interactions with ChatGPT. And it was so instructive how it appeared that it knew you more than you knew yourself, because you've obviously been asking so many different things over the time. And there was one of my colleagues that said, hey, you feel like you're a HR guru, but at the end of the day, you can't even put together a simple memo, right? So that shows how, pervasive it is. And I think it's important that, because that's where I find myself right now, to really understand what is important for you in your own particular context and at the times that you find yourself. So the two critical words for me are time and context. Where are you in your HR journey? Where are you in your AI adoption journey? And what matters to you? Because it's very easy to just jump on the bandwagon and decide that it's anything and everything that AI can do and your money can afford that is important to you. But I think it's very important now more than ever to be sure of what it is that you really want to get out of it, and what capabilities exist around you, what resources are available for you to leverage, and not just get on some wild goose chase or just find out that you've commissioned an agenda that clearly doesn't resonate with whatever business objectives you have. I hope my internet would allow me speak again, but I think I'll just stop for here now and see whether there are any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you so much for the introduction and also your insights. Does Philia or Chiprin have anything to add on to it, or should we jump on to our core discussion? Okay. Let's jump on to our core discussion for today's panel. I have a couple of topic areas that we'd love to discuss for our audience. So one of the one that tops on the first is, what are the first steps HR leaders should take when developing a strategic AI blueprint for their organizations?
If
I
I
can jump
may,
in there.
because it seems like I'm on a roll right now. If I may, because
Oh,
Cyprian, if you don't mind, I think I'll just start with the very first, which is really obvious. I think it's important to even know where businesses are headed. I think it's important to know what business objectives exist. And for a second, I mean, forget about HR for a second and really ask yourself, what's your organization is in the business of doing what exactly? What are you looking to achieve now and in your immediate future? And I think that's where it really starts from, before you can now begin to ask yourself what AI blueprints you are potentially looking to explore, what matters the most to you. At the end of the day, I think that's where now more than ever it is critical, because you can find yourself going on an agenda and then you realize that, you were rowing backwards because the business is going in one direction and HR is taking the organization in another direction. So I think I'll just stop there and just make that first point. Understand what your business is about and what your strategic objectives are. Over to you, Cyprian.
and I'm going to look back into sort of how we started this conversation, and I think we started it with define clear objectives. So what is it exactly that you think your organization and your HR team would benefit from actually using AI? Is your journey just maximizing the profitability of the organization? Is it about turning on 24/7 service that we were talking about earlier? So accessing service and support any time of the day or night, multi-zone and anything else. So start thinking about that of what is the ambition, because that's going to give you almost like the appetite of how fast you want to go on some of the journey of adopting AI, but also what models of AI are you starting to thinking of as well. There's an element in here to think about almost like the risk of the organization. So there's a lot of early adopters out there that are testing, breaking, trying to smudge the boundaries of how we use AI and the ethics and the security around it. Are you one of those? Are you one of the middle part of the organization where you're looking for more stable models before you start adopting them and playing with them? Do you need more or less restrictions around it? Or are you one of the laggards where you're actually looking at something that has been well tested, well proven, has some clear metrics of evaluation already as an evidence before you bring them in within your organization? So that's one of the landscape where you can look at almost like how you should adapt some of these things within your organization. And there's different elements. So for example, we've said no to a chatbot in HR at the moment because we've just gone through being the type of organization where you walk into the office of HR or you're queuing at the door to talk to someone that is a human, and taking them from that into already putting technology as a middle layer between people and interacting with like an HR agent through that was a dramatic change enough for the organization rather than introducing AI chatbots. So AI chatbots are in the card for us, but for the future, at the moment, we're not using that as interaction because interaction is important to us, and we're still allowing the human-to-human interactions, even if we're using technology as a layer of support. So a lot of questions of understanding what's the trajectory, what you're going to suffer from, what's important to the people within your organization, and how you navigate this as a journey.
And I just to add on to that, I think what's really important when you're developing the roadmap, with your business partners is as leaders, regardless of, which department we work in, because even if we're in HR, we're still business leaders. We're just in HR. Is to really encourage and ensure that the AI technology is an entry point in. So for some people, it is going to solve their question immediately. And for others, it's going to require the human touch behind the scenes. So not to replace the human side of what we do with our workforce, with our customers, but that it's simply a tool in our toolbox to help people get immediate answers. And then for the more in-depth, it needs to go the step beyond. So I think Cyprian said earlier, we have to remember that AI is not replacing the job necessarily, or the human in the role, because we all come to work for the humanistic side of what we're doing. So it's a tool, and it can be a very incredible tool because it's providing efficiency and simplicity and answers, right? In the palm of your hand. But we need to ensure that when we're developing that roadmap with our business partners, that there's, we build in there's still the human need. It's not replacing that.
Thank you, Philia. A great point from each one of you. And we would like to jump on to our next topic, which would be how can HR teams evaluate which AI tools are more suitable for their specific needs? What criteria should they prioritize?
I'll jump in. I think, again, it's based on data. It's based on performance. It's going to differ for every group. I think probably the main categories that we typically tend to gravitate towards AI is applicant tracking. So, how do you simplify the initial resume screen? How do you use chatbots or, AI-powered sourcing to help schedule interviews? Take some of that administrative process out of the talent acquisition team's hands. But again, remember that the candidate needs some of that human interaction as well. So it's the balance between the technology and the human side. I think, I mentioned it before, benefits administration, well-being are crucial with, having AI as perhaps the first entry point into questions and answers and navigation. And then I also think, as we start to think more and more about AI, perhaps performance management, how can it really change the way we're delivering feedback or recognition? And then maybe, somewhat groundbreaking, right, is the annual performance review becomes something of the past where you're able to really implement a longer term, more immediate feedback component to the AI technology. So I do think it's based on the team, where the levers are that need to be simplified, and you need efficiency. But I think it is going to grow as we see more and more of this technology come to light.
I love this question, and the way I'm thinking about it is almost like a supplier matrix of scores. To be honest, I haven't done a unique just AI supplier scoring so far through an RFP. I think those are less likely to happen in our world. But what we do find is technology that comes with AI. Therefore, we have specific dimensions that we're looking, or criteria that we're looking at that. And some of them are around almost like data security and compliance, which is a key fundamental criteria. So is it open source AI? Is it closed source AI? Can we control the functionality and the access of that technology? Another one is bias detection in there. So being able to understand that all of our data is biased, all of our people are biased within the organization, making sure that we have enough mechanisms to be able to identify and exclude that from the technology as we're progressing, even if that requires additional interventions from individuals. There's an element of data cleanup. So some of these AI models just take data as it is. Some of them are a bit more advanced and they can identify and showcase outliers of data that sometimes you're throwing into the models to understand whether that creates new paths or whether that breaks some of the model as part of it. And I think I've started earlier to talk about almost like whether the AI model is on platform or whether it's a separate part of the platform. So I think that element of ease of integration, one, with your technology ecosystem and making sure that it works well with what you already have in place. But secondly, when you look at almost like the employee journey and the HR journey as a whole, it doesn't feel like a completely different step where I need to leave everything that I've been doing here, go on completely different tools that have no connection and no data transfer to I don't know, ask ChatGPT to write emails for me and then copy paste them from there and bring them back into my environment. So I think that is an integration where the steps that people have to take to be able to access AI and go back into their workflow is as easy and seamless as possible, because that is where AI is actually shows as augmenting work rather than replicating work.
Yeah, amazing points. Thank you. And I think, I mean, if you ask 10 people this question, you're likely to hear 10 different answers because, I mean, it all boils down to the background and foundation in which you're coming from. And Fila talked about, it being used for applicant tracking systems and how you're really, ensuring greater efficiency in your recruitment process. In my part of the world, what I am faced with now is how I'm having to update job description very rapidly. And it's almost with leaders or specialists that either don't have the time or really they know what the job requires in their head, but being able to articulate them sometimes is being a challenge. And that's how, we are seeing the application of AI a lot more, which means, like I said, everybody has their own journey to explore. But I think if there's anything that I think is also important is how data comes into the picture. And by data, I don't mean clean, processed, quality insights that you're able to drive, but just even being able to, take the experiences from the individuals around you and using them to shape your AI journey is really critical. Maybe because I am coming from this part of the world where it's likely that AI adoption is still, a little bit behind, but we're asking ourselves repeatedly, there's that fear. It's very pervasive, that fear, like, AI is like the end of the world, and a Terminator type situation. Before you know it, an Schwarzenegger is just going to come out from somewhere and eradicate all of what is going on. Still understand and embrace the fact that this
I think we've lost him again.
Yes, seems like Daria's internet connection is sync up a bit today. So while we hold, we could jump on to the next topic and get Doris' insights when he gets back with the connection. I have something, a very interesting topic that people would really like to know about. So, what are some common misconceptions HR leaders might have about adopting AI in HR process, and how can they overcome these challenges? Who'd like to go first?
I can get started, and I think from my perspective, it's not necessarily misconceptions, because I think that the information that we're getting is as good as the information that is available for us. Is sometimes worries that are being amplified by our environment, and I think the first one, and I've touched at it probably 5 times in 35 minutes, is AI is going to replace jobs. So I think the way we're looking at it is displacing certain capabilities. So if you're doing like a lot of manual work at the moment and AI is better, faster, more accurate into being able to deliver that. That is type of work that we should be giving more and more to AI. We should also be giving complex challenges like scouting through mountains and mountains of data and insights to be able to pick up themes and give us an understanding of that. But what it does, it doesn't necessarily take people out of jobs, is it creates new opportunities and expands some of the horizons of our jobs. So think of AI augmenting some certain roles and expanding certain roles. We can't yet fully imagine what some of those roles would exist, but like debiasing AI could be a job in its own, where you have someone that almost like an invigilator of AI responses to make sure that AI is always non-biased and gets monitors the outputs of AI. I think that talking about AI is some misconceptions are that AI is either very biased or is going to eliminate bias completely. It's not going to do either of those. So I think we need to look at it as it will act the best that it can with the information that it absorbs. A lot of the information, a lot of trends in organizations are already full of bias. They're not necessarily intentional bias. Is how do we get our new perspective and put like different scientist classes to understand where does this bias come from, and can we unteach AI some of these bias models. It will still continue bias as we're progressing. Is how do we minimize the impact of that bias within our organization. I think Dale mentioned something earlier about one size fits all, and that's one part of like what worries or misconception in AI for HR leaders. There's no such thing. So each organization will have different levels of adoption, will use AI differently. And I think that's part of the joy, but also the exciting part of AI, because it almost pushes the boundaries on what is possible and what we're imagining to do with it. If you look back a year ago, we were just talking about some generative and conversational AI. Now we're talking about advanced workflows where AI on my phone will be able to like schedule appointments or cancel appointments or impersonate me and have calls to people to book restaurant for my diary or anything else, almost like a PA type of elements. So we're seeing more and more advancements into AI, and that's will continue to scare people as part of how we're progressing. And I think last but not least is that there's this misconception that we're turning it on and it's going to work for the whole organization, where my perception is like try and test. So put on your scientist goggles, your lab coat, try to test into like a controlled environment, do a pilot, do 2 pilots, do 80 pilots, whatever works for you to understand how do you drive a controlled environment of what AI can bring to your organization, and what are some of the limitations and restrictions that you're putting in place on the use of AI within your world.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I totally agree with you, Cyprian, about piloting. I think it's crucial to see how, something like an AI launch, regardless of what you're using it for, how does it work for the population or certain parts of the population. I would encourage people leaders, again, HR, other departments, to not be biased or have a misconception that your workforce demographic isn't going to gravitate towards using AI technology, because the reality is people want quick answers. And I think at this day and age, most individuals are using text, all of the tools that you get onto your, on your phone or the internet, and they're getting immediate responses. I mean, you can track where your Amazon package is, you can track where your Uber is. I mean, people know how to use it. So we are at a point where the hesitation and thought that, well, a large part of my workforce demographic just isn't going to use this. Try it, see how they are going to adopt to it, because I think that's the demographic that will actually jump on it and give you more feedback about how it's working, because they also want that simplification and the ease of using something that will give them quick answers. If you think of manufacturing, I spent a good chunk of my career in manufacturing, spread out all across the country, double-digit thousands of employees. You can't get to every single person. So you need to think of different strategies. And, something like a Just Ask Transparent, for example, where you're getting immediate questions or answers to your questions about your benefits. That really eliminates all of the calls and emails and texts and chats that the HR team is answering all day long, and really puts them in a better position to add more of that strategic work, to be that strategic HR business partner with the internal teams. So I would say, just, agreeing with everything Cyprian was saying, just challenge yourself to not assume that people aren't going to use the technology, because they will, especially once they see how easy it is to use and what they're getting in return in a very quick period of time.
Yeah, and I wanted to look back into, we keep talking about bias, and there is a lot of negative connotation around bias, but bias is productive. Like, bias helped humans for generations and generations, and for the past, I don't know, depends what religion and belief you're on, but it helped us evolve and understand what's dangerous, what works, what doesn't, tried and tested solutions that worked in that specific environment. That is what generates bias. Bias is, I'm picking up the easiest solution based on what we've done in the past, rather than constantly having to challenge the way we're working and how we're navigating the circumstances of work. So if you're looking at AI as a model that understands past decisions, they will look at what worked in the past, not necessarily take into consideration the circumstances that you have in the business today or you want in the future, to be able to demystify some of that bias.
Thank you. Thank you both. Understanding and addressing these areas will definitely help HR leaders adopt AI and more confident areas throughout the organizations. So while we are on the same point, I have another question. So what strategies can HR leaders use to foster a culture of AI adoption and innovation within their teams?
I'll start. I think aligning what the goal is with, how we're going to be using AI technology, aligning it with your vision, your mission, encouraging people to ask questions, ask why are we using it, have the data ready to support it. So really show that we are entering an era of, more change, and, it's constantly going to continue to change, but to be prepared and to really help your workforce understand that this is the direction. Here's why we're going there. We're giving everyone an opportunity to test it, see how it works, ask questions, use it, come back, and, really create that collaborative environment where people can provide feedback, because your users are the ones who are going to shape the direction of how that AI will continue to grow. So I think, really reinforcing that we are change agents. Change is here forever, and this is where we're going with our technology, or whatever, however you're going to be using the AI component. And then I think always reiterating, because, I think it's kind of resonating in this conversation, is that this is an entry point to give people immediate answers, and we're not replacing the human piece that is so critical to operating, a business. So I think making sure that everyone understands that will make the journey a little bit easier.
I love that. And I'm going to summarize some of the things you said, Ophelia, with one word that we spent a lot of time last week on this global conference talking about, which is almost like curiosity. And if you look at HR teams, And what draws people to HR is like untapped curiosity. So always asking questions of why, is there a better way of doing things? Can we test and prototype new ideas? Can we make the world of work better? And almost like that curiosity that you need to make sure that you're harnessing within your team as an HR leader. So there's that element of curiosity. The second one that was mentioned, and I think we need to bring back, is a bit of that vision. So there's a lot of uncertainty around the future of work and our vision within the organization. I think as HR leaders, we need to model the way of what is it that we're picturing in our heads that the future might look like. What are all of our unanswered questions about that future, and how our HR teams can help us explore, answer those questions, prototype, play with some of these elements in a safe and controlled environment to allow us to answer those questions. Like, I think a good question that you keep seeing coming in is what would our future jobs look like in HR if AI is becoming more and more exponential within our organization? That's like an amazing question to ask your HR teams, because it fills them with excitement of what the future might be, rather than with the dread of AI is going to replace all of our jobs and take over the world. And I think that the third thing is, as you're building, you're almost building like curiosity, which is the environment. You're building up the vision, which is like the North Star of where you're heading. And you're building this environment where you're supporting people to test and prototype everything in a secure environment, so that you have certain controls in place to make sure, I don't know, your payroll data doesn't get leaked, or I don't know, other confidential things about your employees and your organization don't end up on the dark web or anything else. So you have specific controls in place of this is our playground, and these are the limitations that we have in place to make sure that we're still playing in a secure environment and we're answering all of these different questions.
Thank you. That really adds a lot to the discussion. And how can HR leaders leverage AI tools and trends to enhance HR functions like recruitment, performance management, and employee engagement?
I'll take employee engagement. I think that it's the crux of what we want our employees to do, regardless of whether it's recruitment, performance management, any of their day-to-day components. I think about how AI can help further engage employees, because they're asking questions, they're getting answers, and it leads them to go back and ask more. It's kind of like when you find that trusted partner and you feel comfortable using or going to that individual or that team for information and answers to your questions. I think the initial interaction with the AI technology can provide that level of comfort. People are nervous about using AI because they really don't know what's behind the scenes and what's driving how it's built and what that interaction is going to look like. I think the more that we can show through the data that employees are getting what they need out of the AI technology, and then building in that component of the human chat, the human interaction, if they need additional help. I really do believe, and I've seen it in my career, when they have the trust, they will engage, and they will become more engaged, and they will learn more about, let's say it's their benefits, for example, a topic that most people would say, I have no idea what they are. I don't know where to find information. I don't know how to use them. If we can put that in the fingertips of employees and their dependents, because they're also users of the benefit plans, I think that's where you start getting the traction. And the AI actually will then complement all of the additional steps like marketing and continuous engagement and information sharing. So, as we've said, I think throughout this session, it's really the initial entry point. It complements what everyone needs to engage along their trajectory of what they're looking for. But I think the engagement piece is really where we can capture more positive outcomes than perhaps we've seen in the past.
Love that. And I think if you're taking engagement as just being almost like the engagement metrics within the organization that you might be capturing on and off or through a specific survey or ongoing within the organization, layering AI functionality on top of it also helps you navigate like how do you support line managers to understand some of the drivers of engagement, what's happening within their teams, how do they compare to others, what's trends analysis, do they need to reach out to specific individuals and like drive different type of management style than they have at the moment with everyone else. So what we're doing is almost like imagine people in the workplace where we're attaching, I don't know, another 200 points to their IQ by leveraging AI. And we're maximizing one, how we use the data, how we see touch points, how we see the world, and what are some of the pathways that we can support people to navigate better. In a lot of things you've mentioned, almost like recruitment and performance management, there's still a lot of transaction that happens that gets automated. So I don't know, have a job opening out there that has received 1,800 applications. It's impossible for a human to be able to do a good job. So not necessarily to go through it, but to do a good job going through some of those. So how do you use AI to understand like thematic analysis and understand picking up capabilities and mapping skills and everything else to be able to make recommendations rather than make decisions. And I think that's a boundary that we need to keep clear of AI making recommendations rather than making decisions on behalf of HR on what a good candidate would look like versus what a poor candidate would look like for certain roles. So I think there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of examples that we can bring in there. But I think there's huge untapped potential on how we're going to use AI in the future as well. So I think we'll also see new models being launched before the end of the year, and we're second part of October now.
Excellent points. What recommendations do you have for HR leaders who are just beginning to explore AR tools and trends for their organizations or for beginners?
I think that the data that you use to set up the AI technology. So let's go back to what Cyprian was saying about recruitment and the number of resumes that are coming in when a job is posted. The number of resumes an employer is going to receive are only as good as how you've set up the AI technology to get the right group of people to apply for that job or to screen who should make it to the next step. So to really, if you're not using AI technology, how do you set it up in such a way that helps your team succeed? Because what you put into it is definitely not, it's going to determine what the outcome is and what you're getting back. I would also encourage HR leaders to explore different AI solutions, see what works best for your workforce, your demographic, and that answers the question of what problem are you trying to solve? Is it efficiency? Is it putting information in the hands of your employees or your people leaders? How can you structure the creation of that AI technology to simplify, hopefully maybe even eliminate some of those administrative issues that you have and really can't stay on top of, because we're all working in lean organizations, with multiple priorities. So setting the tool up the right way from the beginning will help you get the results that you really are seeking.
And I think my advice would be there's a lot of pressure that we're feeling in HR at the moment of having to already have done this. There's why are we so behind on our AI journey? Why don't we have everything or UFOs and everything flying within the organization to be fully dependent? My advice would be take your time. So take a step back from this, look at it as an ecosystem, not necessarily as a one-off tool. Start thinking about what does it mean for your organization. Feel free to say no to stuff. So like I gave you an example of us saying no to chatbots in HR. And that's like a very well documented decision of we've looked at it, we've understood the implications, we've said no. We're going to review it in June next year to understand whether the organization has a different appetite for it, or whether we still consider that it will drive disengagement from people. Like, feel free to say no to certain things and like play it by your role as you're in the control environment. I think that there's a lot of like news out there that are putting more and more pressure, and you will get your CEO and your MDs asking you, why haven't we done all of these different things? Just take a step back and try to think of how all of these things change your organization, change your organizational culture. Is your organization ready for some of these tools, as advanced and wonderful as they are? Will they drive more efficiencies or more friction? Are you already going through significant changes as an organization? Therefore, bringing AI is going to almost like aggravate and intensify the anxiety of people within the workplace, rather than actually resolve and drive better outcomes for the organization. So don't let yourself feel pressured by external factors, or I am calling you CEO external factors here, but almost like outside of HR factors of what you should be doing, and take your time to make sure that you're assessing and you're thinking through some of these decisions as you're progressing with your journey.
Thank you. Thank you both. As we are at time, before we wrap up, I would love to ask each of you, what is one strategic takeaway you would recommend for HR leaders to stay competitive and future proof their HR functions with both AI tools and emerging trends?
I love that, with staying competitive and on top of the strategy. After I just said, take your time and don't rush into making decisions. So I think my other advice is feel free to prototype. So I think the value of testing and prototyping some of these tools in like a controlled environment, I can't tell you how good it is, because it allows you to like fully understand how it works, pick up users that you don't normally see in HR. So like some employees and some line managers that have no clue of what they're signing up to for them to test and prototype, because you need some of that almost like unbiased view of what some of these tools would do for them, to be able to pick up the value that it brings to the organization and understands the readiness. The way I look at HR is that element of where sometimes we're lab scientists, where we're coming in and we're doing all of these different tests to understand which way should the organization go, what's dangerous and what's safe. Are we at the readiness of trying some of these things and like finding the cure for our organizations?
I echo that as well. I think, invest in training and education, particularly for the HR teams. Not everyone is ready to take this leap into this new world of AI. So, be prepared to answer the why. I have challenged my teams for years to constantly say why. Why are we doing this? Why is this going to help people? Be prepared as a leader to have those responses. I think experimenting is also really good, especially if you can do it within your own control group to see how it's working first. Then you're able to really start figuring out, where do we need to make changes? Do we continue on course? I also think that it's important to talk to others and really stay engaged in this topic. So whether it's with your colleagues in your own organization, networking, wherever this journey takes you, this topic is not going to go away, and it's going to become more and more prevalent. So I think as, good people leaders, as good leaders of an organization, we need to be prepared to jump when this really starts taking off in a fashion that's even faster than it's already taken off. So stay educated, keep learning. Cyprian said earlier, be curious, and really try to understand where this technology can be the really good fit for not only your own workforce, but if you're serving customers as well, how can you help them find out which AI technology is best for them?
Thank you so much, Philia and Chiprin, for engaging and insightful conversation today. It's been fantastic to hear from both of you on your perspectives on how AI can truly transform HR. I'm sure our audience have gathered some great takeaways that they can apply to their own. And we apologize for the inconvenience with any connectivity issue with the LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a little bit tricky today, between 5 to 10 minutes. So we believe that it's comfortable and convenient later on, and people have got everything that they wanted with the key takeaways. And please do reach out, Philia and Chiprain, on LinkedIn for any questions or any follow up thoughts or any doubts that you may have from today's session. So they will be happy to connect and coordinate with you. And thank you so much again, panelists and everyone who joined us today. We look forward to seeing you at all our upcoming sessions, and have a rest great day and week, and see you all soon.